See, I had the audacity to dream big for my entryway makeover, and today I am showing you the journey. I picked up some power tools and gained tons of confidence using them and transformed my space into an elegant and inviting area. I hope that you're ready for some serious DIY inspiration in part 1 of this series, so let's get started. Hi, I am in my foyer today because I have plans to give it a big makeover. Here are 2 items that I purchased last summer as part of the makeover. That is a mirror and this is a runner. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be using the runner yet, but the mirror is definitely a big piece of this job. I will be replacing these 2 mirrors that you see here, giving the walls another coat or 2 of paint. I ran into an issue here. I just noticed this recently. Some of these screws have popped out of the wall, so that has to be addressed. That's a screw you can see right there, but I suspect that these 4 here are nails. So my husband and I are going to have to address those before I can paint this wall. Another reason that I'm hoping to do something with this space, I'm not sure if you can see here, but let's see. There we go. So you can see those brown marks right there. That's actually the paint color that used to be on this wall, or the paint color that's still there. It's just behind. I need to fix the edges right here. You can see some of the old paint color coming through. So I'm going to have to add some joint compound to this and sand it before I can paint. I will also be addressing these gaps right here, or this gap between the wall and the door trim. This is the other side of the door, so I will be fixing this as well. I will also be staining and painting the door. This is a wood door. It is a solid wood door. I will be painting this. I plan to paint the outside as well, but just not right now because it's still too cool for that kind of project, so I'll just wait till it's a bit warmer outside. This is our coat rack. We used to have a closet over here where you see the shoe cabinet, but we got rid of that a long time ago. So we have a coat rack here. I still need to find a solution for these things. We plan on putting batten board on the entire foyer here. At some point, we'll carry it up the stairs to the 2nd floor. I'm not 100% sure yet if we're going to do that as part of this project or just wait till later. Speaking of upstairs, you can see that handrail right there. That does need to be sanded and painted. Just like the one down in the basement, that needs to be sanded and painted. And this banister also needs to be sanded and painted. I also have to make a decision about whether or not I want to put the batten board over here on this wall, which is part of the foyer. If I do that, I will also have to paint over here because there are some places, even if I don't do that, there are some places where the old tan color of the wall is showing through. I just want to add that when we had this room painted, I didn't paint it, we had some actual professionals do it, but there are a lot of spots in here where you could see they just did a rust job. But I'm going to fix it. The first thing that I'm going to do is sand the front door. Here are some of the tools that I'll be using to sand the door and the trim, as well as the banister and handrails. So I have this cordless trimmer, this cordless sander here. And I also bought a multi-pack of handheld sanding blocks. I purchased these sanding blocks because these are going to be great for getting into the crevices of the trim, as well as the crevices of the door right around the window where we have like some intricate designs that are pretty hard to get into with something like this sander, so stay tuned. I'm getting started with a block sander so that I can reach the areas that are hard to reach with my power sander. While we're at it, I will share a story of how we ended up with this door. When we purchased our home, the previous front door had been removed according to a neighbor and replaced with a highly undesirable door that was actually for a back door, and it didn't even fit. So replacing the door became a top priority, and we ended up with this one, which we purchased from a local building materials auction. We did not realize that we bought one that wouldn't swing inward the right way, but we ended up liking it and we just kept it in place. Neither my husband nor I had ever installed a door before, but we worked into the wee hours one night, swapping out the doors to make sure that we had this door in place because it was a lot more secure than the other one. The new door was unfinished, but after it was installed, I sanded and stained it, and it remained that way for almost 20 years. Now I feel like it is definitely the right time to change it, and that's exactly why updating this door is within the scope of this project. Okay, so here is what the door looks like after I used the hand sander and or the power sander and the hand sander, the block. So the goal was not to take off all of the stain. I just needed to make sure that all of the polyurethane was removed. That step will make sure that it will ensure that the primer and paint adhere properly. So the next step is to use some tack cloth to clean off all of the sand from the surfaces. Then I'm going to prime and paint the door. Here are the other supplies I'll be using. So I have this 5-gallon bucket of Behr Premium Plus Paint and Primer in 1. This is for trim indoors. I believe this is left over from when we had our primary bathroom gutted and renovated in 2022. I think that's the year, yeah, 2022. And then I also have some tack cloth. I purchased that from Amazon because it was too cold when I first wanted that. I did not feel like going out to one of the home improvement stores, so I ordered it from Amazon. I have some foam roller brushes, also from Amazon. And then I have this 17-piece painting kit. 17-piece painting kit that has some roller brushes, some foam roller, no foam roller brushes in this one, just some regular roller brushes, some paint brushes. There's actually even some painter's tape and a sanding block. Now it is time to paint the door, but before I do that, I'm going to put down the drop cloth, and then I'm going to tape off the window so that I don't get paint onto it. You can tape off the window, or if you're going to be painting any, near any glass, you can tape off that area, or you can use something called liquid tape. I have never used liquid tape, but around the time that I did this, so this video, the beginning of the video was actually recorded in February 2024. Yes, that is correct. But around that time, I watched a video from another YouTuber who I watch, Sheena Frazier. Her channel used to be called Oh Sheena. She was painting, I believe, her back door, her patio door, and she mentioned the liquid tape. I'm not sure at this point if I had already painted my door or if I was about to paint the door, but either way, I did not use the liquid tape. But I think the next time that I paint near a window or around some glass or even a mirror, I think I'll give the liquid tape a try and see how that works. So right here I am taping the area around the door trim to make sure that I do not get white paint onto the gray walls, because I was planning to paint the walls in the same color. But you'll see in part 2 of this series why the paint, or why the tape that I was putting around the trim ultimately did not matter. As you can see, I've already started painting the trim and the door. I'll be using different paint brushes throughout this process. Right now I'm using just a regular paintbrush to get into the crevices, but later on I'm going to move to 2 different kinds of roller brushes. This is the first of 2 roller brushes that I'll be using on the door. I like using this one for the first coat because it will allow me to get into the grain of the wood. The door ultimately required 4 coats of paint. I used a foam roller brush to do the other 3 because I love the professional finish that it gives you. By the way, I painted the interior of the door in February 2024, but I did not finish painting the exterior until about April or May because I had to string together enough warm days to paint the outside, and that's because cold weather and paint don't mix. It is 8 months later and I finally picked up my tools again, and oh my goodness, the scope of this project changed significantly. So initially I was planning on making over the foyer and possibly the staircase, but I ended up deciding that the second floor hallway should be a part of this project as well. I also changed my mind about batten board design, and you'll see just ahead what I ultimately chose, but I'm going to tell you that I did make a mistake when I made this choice, and it's one that I'm going to have to live with until I figure out an answer as to how to fix it. One of the reasons that I am showing you the process of this makeover is because there was a lot of growth. I picked up a lot of skills along the way, including learning how to take off trim from the wall. I learned how to use power tools. That was a commitment that I made to myself prior, but I had not carried that out yet. So as we move through this journey, you'll see my confidence building as I learned how to use power tools. You're also going to see a lot of shots of my, at the time, 10-year-old, as he also picked up a lot of new skills along the way. So right here I will be taking measurements of the different walls in the foyer because I need to know the dimensions for the wood that needs to be cut for this space. I I've taken my measurements out to the garage where my husband has set up the baseboards that you see toward the back of the wall there. By the way, we're using 4-inch tall baseboards. He's also going to be giving me some lessons. So as you can see, he has the miter saw table set up, and he will be instructing me along the way on exactly how to use a miter saw. So right now I'm just learning how to do a regular cut, but then he's going to show me how to create the angle that I want and how to position the piece of wood that I need to miter. One thing about my husband is that he can do anything, and he showed me how to use this saw. He showed me how to cut mitered angles, and oh my goodness, I started just, I don't know, I felt great. You'll see in the video that he's with me quite a bit in the beginning, but later on I had so much confidence that I could go out there with my measurements, I could make my lines, I could make my cuts, I could take the pieces of wood into the house and do what needed to be done. And when I made mistakes, I would ask my husband to help me fix those mistakes, or if he caught them and I didn't, he would just help me like he might be doing right here in this very scene. It was an amazing experience, and I'm so proud of myself for finally deciding that I needed to learn how to use some power tools. I am in the foyer with the pieces of baseboard that I cut, and I'm getting ready to use the nail gun. I did use a nail gun about 5 years before that when we were doing some finishing to my home office when our basement was gutted and then rebuilt. And I did not like the experience at all. I didn't think I would pick up a nail gun again. However, I am using it here for this project. I'll be using it extensively, and I stopped being afraid of it. What you see me doing when I'm looking up is that I'm looking for the studs, as you saw in the beginning of the video. You could easily spot the studs because some of the screws were coming through the wall. So I was just looking up to make sure that I was putting the nails in a place where they were going to hit a stud. Remember when I said that my plans for using batten board changed? Well, I'll show you exactly why. So right here I have some Loctite. We bought about, 24 tubes of that, and that's because I needed them for the wainscoting. So I changed my mind about using batten board and decided to go with the wainscoting. I'll explain to you later on in the video what mistake I made in terms of how it would look on the staircase. That's a mistake that I still am struggling with in order to get a solution for that. But for now, I'm just going to be using this Loctite on here to put this piece of wainscoting into the wall. And by the way, I watched a ton of videos. Some were DIYers like me, some were professionals, and a lot of them didn't agree on whether or not you should use an adhesive when you're putting wainscoting on the wall. Some said that nails should be just fine. Some said that you need Loctite and nails. Some said Loctite, or I should say an adhesive plus nails. Some said you could just use an adhesive. So I'm beginning this project with an adhesive and nails. And by the way, there are different ways to install your wainscoting. So I'm installing mine on top of the 4-inch baseboards, but I did see videos where the choice was made to put the wainscoting directly onto the floor and then put the baseboard in front of it. But I wanted to have my wainscoting higher on the wall, which is why I chose to put it on top of the baseboard. Each wainscoting panel is 36 inches wide, but throughout this project, you'll see that I'll be using some custom cut sizes because we have to make sure that they fit our walls. When I was watching videos trying to figure out or trying to learn how to install wainscoting, one professional who was actually a carpenter mentioned that sometimes the panels are not all the same height, and if you look closely you'll see that the panel that I just installed is slightly shorter than the one to the right, but that's something that will be covered up with trim later. I have moved on to the stairs so that I can start installing the baseboard, but here is where I ran into trouble with the wainscoting that I chose. If I had used batten board for the foyer and the second floor and the staircase, I would have had custom pieces for the entire way, but because we used the wainscoting that I chose, once I got it home and we had already installed the first few pieces downstairs and I just wanted to see how it would look on the staircase, I realized that that was not going to work in this space. So As of this recording, I have not figured out, but by the time we get to part 2, I will have a solution for that. Right here, I'm on the second floor because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the scope changed. So it's including the whole second floor hallway. So I will be taking off the trim in this area too. My 11-year-old will be helping. He's 11 now. I think he was still 10 when we started this part of the video, but he'll be helping to take off the trim. You see my husband scoring some trim right there. These home improvement projects that we embark upon are usually family affairs. They can be, they require a major learning curve for me because there are a lot of things that I just have never done. Our son is picking up the skills at a much younger age than I'm picking them up, but at the end of the day, we all take pride in the fact that our hands came together to do some work to make our house the way that we wanted it. As you can see, this area near the staircase would not accommodate even just a portion of a wainscoting panel without looking weird. So we are just adding some plain paneling to the wall, and we're going to prime it, or I'm going to prime it and then figure out how to design it so that it kind of fits in with the rest of the panels. I know that it will not be a perfect fit, but in the meantime, my husband is cutting that custom piece that we need for this area. In order to fill in the gaps between the panels, I'll be using two different kinds of wood filler. The first one that I'm going to be using is this one right here, and that's one that will be applied with a spatula. That was not the right size spatula for this job, so I swapped it out for a smaller one. In addition to filling the seams between the panels, I need to go around and fill in the nail holes as well. Here is the second kind of wood filler that I'll be using. This is excellent for getting into the corners of the walls. If you've never done a project in your home that requires working with the walls or flooring, you may not know that the walls are not straight, so that's why there's such a gap at the top of the two panels meeting there. The corner's not straight, and that's just something that happens with things that are man-made. So here's my solution for the mistake that I made when I chose the wainscoting panels. The panels were not going to sit right on the wall here as we go up the stairs, so we decided to use MDF board on both sides of the staircase. Later on, I will have to make a decision about how to design this so that it doesn't clash too much with the wainscoting that's at the top of the stairs and down in the foyer. Well, as we wind down part one of this makeover, I hope that it gave you some inspiration to tackle some DIY project in your home. Stay tuned for part two, in which I'll be finishing up the construction, but I'll also be giving you the final reveal of this entire area. You will not want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you would like to see this kind of content in the future but are not yet subscribed, please click the subscribe button, and when you do, Don't forget to click the notification bell so that you won't miss out on future uploads. Until the next time, stay blessed.
Everyone needs a helping hand. Everyone needs someone to rely on. Yes, everyone needs a friend. So let's come together.